brrr, brrr. Wood rattling against hard plastic. 3:14 a.m. The blue light from the smartphone screen slices through the pitch-black bedroom. It throws long, distorted shadows against the floral wallpaper. It illuminates the dust motes hanging in the stale air. It hits my hand, resting motionless on the quilt. The skin is thin, translucent, like old parchment paper. The blue veins mapping underneath look like dried riverbeds. On the screen, the harsh white letters pulse. David Mobile. BRRR. BRRR. I don't sit up. I don't reach for my reading glasses. I just lie on my back, staring at the motionless blades of the ceiling fan. The silence between the vibrations is heavier than the sound itself. 84 years old. They say your hearing goes first. Mine is perfectly fine. I can hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen down the hall. I can hear the faint drip of the bathroom faucet I can't afford to call a plumber for. And I can hear my son breathing on the other end of that silent ring, waiting for me to break. BRRR. BRRR. I slowly turn my head. The glare of the phone illuminates the object sitting right next to it. A blue Royal Dansk cookie tin. The gold paint on the rim is flaking off. The hinges are crusted with thick orange rust. It's heavy. It hasn't held a butter cookie in 3 decades. I slide my hand across the nightstand. My knuckles graze the edge of the vibrating phone. I don't pick it up. Instead, I place my palm flat against the cold, dented metal lid of the cookie tin. I press down, hard. The coldness of the metal seeps into my palm, grounding me. The phone stops vibrating. The screen goes black. The room is swallowed by the dark again. I take a slow breath, in and out. Then the blue light violently flashes back to life. David Mobile. He will call exactly 4 times tonight. He always does, because he knows exactly how many rings it takes to crack a mother's resolve. 25 years ago, the rain was coming down in thick, heavy sheets, slapping against the windshield of my old station wagon, a Chevron gas station off Route 9. The smell of wet asphalt, the sharp, bitter tang of leaking motor oil. David was 22. He stood under the flickering neon awning, water dripping from his chin, his shoulders hunched. "Mom, the transmission just died." His voice cracked, just the right amount. I stepped out into the freezing downpour. I didn't even grab my umbrella. The ATM booth smelled like stale urine and wet dog. A dead moth was trapped inside the plastic screen cover. Insert card. Enter PIN. Whir. Click. 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 The machine spat out $20 bills. Stiff. Green. $500. The exact amount I had saved for a new winter coat and the electric bill. I walked back out into the rain. I pressed the damp stack of cash into his hands. His fingers were ice cold. He gripped my wrists, so tight it left pale marks on my skin. "You saved my life, Mom. I swear, I'll pay you back on Friday." He hugged me. He smelled like damp wool and stale beer. I drove home shivering. The heater in my car was broken. My clothes clung to my skin like wet paper. But I didn't turn on the radio. I just listened to the sound of the tires on the wet road. My chest was expanding, pressing against my ribs. I was the rescuer, the safety net. I didn't know it then. That night at the Chevron station wasn't a rescue. It was a transaction. The first dose of a very long, very expensive addiction. $500 for a transmission. $1,200 for a surefire real estate course. $4,000 for a sudden tooth infection. The emergencies evolved, like a virus mutating to bypass a host's immune system. I sit at the Formica kitchen table. The fluorescent overhead bulb hums a low, electric buzz. A dead fly rests on the sticky yellow strip hanging above the sink. I slide my reading glasses down the bridge of my nose. I look at the bank statements spread across the scratched table. Black ink on cheap, thin paper. My state teacher's pension clears on the 3rd of every month. At precisely 2:00 a.m., $2,418. The phone calls. They always started on the 4th. A lost job, a threatened eviction, a stolen laptop that he needed for work. I trace the numbers with a trembling, arthritic finger. Minus $1,500. Minus $2,100. Minus $850. It was never a random amount. It was never $50 for groceries. It was mathematically calibrated, a butcher's knife slicing away the meat of my savings, right down to the bone, leaving me just enough to buy store-brand oatmeal and a single box of black tea bags to last the month. He wasn't drowning in bad luck. He was just doing accounting. He didn't see a mother holding a lifeline. He saw an ATM. And he had finally memorized the exact date the armored truck arrived to refill the vault. Screech. The brown packing tape rips off the heavy plastic dispenser. Dust coats the back of my throat. It tastes like dry chalk. The living room on Elm Street is hollow. Every footstep echoes against the bare hardwood. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 30 years of handwritten mortgage checks. I wrap the porcelain gravy boat in yesterday's newspaper. The cheap black ink stains my thumb. The house sold in 14 days. A quick cash offer. 20% below market value. Just this once, Mom. The lawyer fees. They'll lock me up. His voice on the receiver. The deliberate, ragged intake of breath. I signed the closing documents with a complimentary bank pen. Now, Unit 4B, the fluorescent light in the corridor flickers. The hallway smells permanently of stale tobacco and boiled cabbage. My knees pop as I sit on the edge of the twin mattress. The metal springs groan under my weight. It sags deeply in the middle. The walls are paper. I can hear the man next door coughing. A wet, heavy rattle. I look out the single, barred window. It overlooks a rusted green dumpster. I didn't downsize for comfort. I didn't move here to simplify my golden years. I cannibalized my own shelter. I sold the roof over my head just so he could keep buying matches to burn his life down. 12:01 a.m. The red neon numbers on the stove clock bleed into the dark kitchen. The ambush always happens in the dark. Never at noon. Never at 3:00 p.m. when the sun is high and the mind is sharp. Always past midnight, when the arthritis hums in the knuckles, when the half dose of melatonin leaves a thick, gray fog behind the eyes. Ring. The plastic handset of the wall phone is freezing against my ear. I don't speak. I just hold my breath. Haya, ragged, shallow, right into the receiver. Mom. A deliberate 3-second gap of static. If the wire doesn't clear by 6:00 a.m., they're locking me out. Not a question. A hostage negotiation. An artificial ticking clock dropped right onto my linoleum floor. The breathing speeds up over the speaker. A desperate, wet gasp. He rehearsed it. It is a surgical strike, delivered to an old woman standing in a stained bathrobe. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to threaten. He just needs to set the timer. Because he knows a mother's brain is not wired to do arithmetic at 2 in the morning. A mother's brain only hears her child drowning in the dark. Dong, dong, dong. 9 heavy strikes from the cheap wall clock in the kitchen. The sliced turkey breast on the porcelain plate is stiff, white, dry. A thick, opaque skin has formed over the surface of the gravy. I sit perfectly still, my spine pressed flat against the hard wooden back of the dining chair. 2 placemats, 2 silver forks, 2 water glasses. The ice in the right glass melted 3 hours ago. Just a lukewarm, stagnant puddle now. My phone sits next to my napkin. A black, dead mirror. Not a single text. Not a single ring. I reach out. My fingers tremble slightly. I don't touch the phone. I touch the sealed bank envelope resting under the salt shaker. My state pension check was delayed this month. A clerical error in the capital. The account was sitting at exactly 0. I had mentioned that to him on Tuesday, just in passing. The silence in the cramped apartment suddenly feels heavy. It presses against my eardrums. I look at the empty chair across from me. He didn't get stuck in holiday traffic. He didn't have a sudden migraine. The ATM was simply out of order, and a customer never visits a broken machine. Beep. The red laser hits the barcode on the small, stapled paper bag. $142.50. The pharmacist doesn't look up. She just snaps her chewing gum. The fluorescent lights overhead hum a sterile, blinding white. My thumb swipes down on my phone screen. The banking app loads slowly. Available balance, $148. A gray text bubble drops from the top of the glass screen. David, the tow truck is hooking it up right now, Mom. Please. My chest flutters. A hard, erratic thump right behind my breastbone. like a trapped moth throwing itself against a window. I look down at the white paper bag on the counter. Lisinopril, 30 days supply. To keep the pressure down, to keep the blood moving, to keep the clot from hitting my brain. My hand shakes, just a slight tremor in the index finger. I place that finger on the edge of the bag. I push it slowly back across the laminate counter. I'll pick it up next week. The pharmacist finally looks up. Her eyes are blank. She tosses my life preserver into a plastic bin behind the register. I walk out into the blinding glare of the concrete parking lot. The wind bites through my thin, beige cardigan. I lean against the hood of a stranger's car. I open the app. Transfer, $145. Confirm, sent. My chest flutters again. A long, hollow pause between beats. I was literally trading the blood in my own veins just to buy him another 24 hours of ruin. BZZZT. The phone slides a fraction of an inch across the glass coffee table. I grip the armrests of the recliner. The faux leather is cracked, peeling, cold under my fingernails. Ping. The screen lights up the dark living room. David, Mom, please. They're banging on the door. My stomach twists into a tight, hard knot. Battery acid rises in the back of my throat. I swallow it down. It burns. I squeeze my eyes shut. 50 years of biological programming. A mother shields. A mother fixes. A mother bleeds out so the child can walk on dry land. Ping. David, I have nowhere else to go. My right hand twitches, just 3 inches forward. One swipe, one tap on the banking app. It would be so easy to make the noise stop. I pull my hand back. I press my dry knuckles against my teeth, hard, until I taste pennies. I listen to the refrigerator compressor kick on in the kitchen. This is what withdrawal looks like. Not shivering in a sterile rehab clinic, but an old woman sitting alone in the dark, violently amputating her own maternal instinct. BRRR, BRRR, the 4th ring, the final attempt. The blue glare dances on the rusted lid of the cookie tin one last time, and then the vibration stops. The screen dies. The floral wallpaper disappears back into the pitch black. The silence left behind is deafening. It rings in my eardrums like a struck tuning fork. A tiny red dot appears in the top corner of the glass, blinking. 1 second on, 1 second off. A new voicemail. 3 minutes of calculated panic. 3 minutes of a rehearsed, wet gasp designed to shatter my spine. I lift my palm off the cold metal of the tin. My knuckles throb in the damp air. I pick up the phone. The plastic casing is still warm from the overworked battery. My thumb hovers over the glass screen, over the tiny, gray outline of a trash can. I don't press play. I don't put the speaker to my ear to check if he's actually bleeding this time. Tap. A sharp, digital click echoes in the quiet room. Message deleted. 50 years of motherhood, severed, with a single half-ounce press of a wrinkled thumb. I set the dead, black rectangle face down on the scratched wood of the nightstand. The ransom had expired. Creak, my fingernails dig under the rusted lip of the Royal Dansk tin. Metal grinds against metal. A harsh, grating screech in the quiet room. The lid pops off. A puff of stale air hits the back of my throat. It smells like dry rot and old ink. I tilt the tin toward the thin sliver of yellow streetlight bleeding through the window blinds. There are no sewing needles inside. No sweet butter cookies. No faded Polaroids of a little boy with a missing front tooth and skinned knees. Just paper. Hundreds of slips of paper, crammed tight, brittle and dry. I reach in. I pull out a handful. The sharp edges scrape against my thin skin. A pink carbon copy from a pawn shop on 4th Street. 1999. My gold wedding band. A yellowed Western Union receipt. 2004. A thick stack of printed bank transfers, held together by a rusted paperclip. 2010, 2015, 2022. The ink on the older receipts is fading to a ghostly blue, fading away, just like my bone density, just like the years I traded for them. I let the papers fall back into the tin. They make a dry, hollow rustle, like dead leaves scraping across concrete. Listen to me. You, sitting there in the dark, holding your breath every time your phone vibrates, staring at the ceiling while your chest caves in. You think you are throwing them a life preserver. You think writing that check proves you are a good parent. You aren't saving them. You are just teaching them that your lungs are expendable. Look at your calloused hands. Look at your empty bank account. Look at the cheap walls of the room you are trapped in. Do not buy their affection with the very last drops of your dignity. They do not love you. They love the vault. They love the combination to the safe. Shut the vault. Change the locks. Put the phone face down. Let them learn how to swim in the freezing water, so you can finally, for the first time in your life, take a breath.